Before we begin, we want to share that we will be recording tonight's meeting. We do plan to share this recording publicly in the event that a student, parent, staff, or community member would like to know what was discussed. If you do not wish to be recorded, please let us know at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, President Allen and members of the board. It is so great to see you guys all. I get to start off introductions actually with a new assistant principal introductions, which we have not actually done as a formal introduction to the board yet. So I'm going to start off with having Nita Hill stand up. She is our new assistant principal here at Ptarmigan Ridge. She was a counselor for 23 years before deciding to become a assistant principal. She doesn't know it yet, but we're aware that in about 3 years she'll be starting her PhD. She's on that pathway. We're just still trying to convince her of this next. Before coming to us, she did her admin internship admin program in the Phillips School District. And did part of her intern hours actually here in Orting and in Ptarmigan. So we brought her in there at the end. We're real happy to have her with us. She is really passionate about a lot of things, one of them being equity. And another one that she's really passionate about is eggnog. And she's also in a series of passions that our staff have as well, so she's going to kick us off next.
President Holland, members of the board, I have to tell you, I feel luckier by the day to be a part of what I call Team Ptarmigan. And I'm going to introduce you some amazing members of our team, but I want to paint a little picture for you. We're so excited to have our students back and be really building something amazing at Ptarmigan. In fact, we asked our staff the other day, kind of envision the story that we want to be told and be telling. Imagine you sat down in front of and at the news and there's a story about Ptarmigan, and I brought one little sample. So, imagine in your head some breaking news music to really set the scene. This just in. We're live at PTR, where a positive, creative staff collaborates at high levels. This leads to students taking ownership of their learning, and student growth is through the charts. The whole community is cheering. Woo! Well, I want to tell you that from every corner of our school, from the playground to the lunchroom to the classroom, the folks that are here with us tonight are a very large part of that. They're joining an existing team, and we are building some great things. So instead of me just, we're going to do a little something different for introductions. I'm going to ask the members of Team PTR to please stand. If you would, go ahead and stand up. And I'm going to have them say their name and their position. I'm going to tell you a few fun facts about our group that we have welcomed into Orting.
Okay, I'm Terry Flip. I'm 2nd grade at PTR.
Roberta McCall, I'm a resource teacher at PTR.
Stacy Heath, I'm 5th grade at PTR.
Paris Westphal, 5th grade.
Brendan Smith, 5th grade. Chris Miller, 5th grade.
Janet Hesterson, 4th grade. Kayla Gursky, 1st grade.
Megan Hutchinson, kindergarten.
Okay, great. All right. You can go ahead and have a seat. But I want you to, we have some fun facts, so raise your hand when you hear your personal facts. So among us, we have a lot of very talented people. Someone in our group joins us from the Eastville School District, having recently completed their master's degree. Okay. Let's see. We have also another master's degree candidate who also was the president of their unicycle club in elementary school, which is a talent I have not yet at PTR, but I'm thinking about a way to maximize that. We have a couple graduates of Orting. Excited to be back. One of which served as a para for a long time in our building and is now with us, having gotten her teaching degree and serving in our research program. So that's been really exciting. We have several people who really enjoy the outdoors, one of which grew up in a small community very much like Orting. We have a couple PLU graduates in the house, one of which apparently is a pretty accomplished cook. Recently heard from his mom he may take the reins and cook the holiday dinner. And I think we can all agree, if your mom says you can cook dinner, you have accomplished something. I haven't done it yet. I'm on store-bought Costco pie status still in my family. We have a couple folks who recently moved here to Orting. I don't know if they're with us tonight, but excited to be here. And several who have students also in our community. So they're teaching and raising their kids here. We have someone who started their college career in Montana before joining us here. We have, just checking, so that person's here. And then I have word that one of the folks on our team has some skills with some pie making, but we have not yet seen evidence of that. It's actually true, but there's a bit of a rumor that we might have an excellent baker among us. So I'm very excited to be a part of this great team that is doing great things here in the Orting School District. So thanks for the opportunity to share them with you.
All right.
Thank you.
And that concludes our introductions of new staff for this school year. It does not conclude our hiring. We will continue to do that throughout the school year, but it does bring to you those who started the school year with us. Thank you.
At this time, and unless you'd like to depart, we'd like to invite our new staff and employees to leave, and so you can go home with your loved ones, get some rest before Vacation day tomorrow, I don't know what you have planned, but I hope it goes well. We'll see you back on Friday.
Alright, next on the agenda is board recognition.
I wanted to make sure I thank all of our staff because I read the front page of the Herald today and local school district has to discontinue bus routes because they don't have enough bus drivers. Seattle, I understand, is closing on Friday due to shortages of staff also. And I want to say our team has worked so hard. I mean, things like short of a bus driver, the buses have been taking extra kids, the special ed buses. Teachers doing lesson plans for other teachers when they're absent. People helping to cover. I've seen lots of people out doing morning drop-off at PTR, everybody helping. And I really appreciate that we have so many team players and they're helping us keep serving our children even when things get tough. So I wanted to thank everybody.
I will just kind of piggyback on that it's our community working together that makes Orting such a special place, both inside the schools and outside. And I would like to call attention to some fun stuff. We had the football team that made it into the next round of the state playoffs. That's pretty exciting for us. We also had students participate in state and cross country. So that was exciting. We also added soccer at the middle school. And so I think that's a wonderful way to get more kids involved in things outside of the classroom. And the more involved they are, engaged in that way, it's just better for everybody all around. I just love to see the kids participating in things outside of their classroom as well. And then the other thing that I took note of was the community activism of some of our Orting students, the cleanup that had happened. And that was kind of put out there in social media, and I love that we get to see that stuff out there and watching our kids and our community help one another. It's awesome. It's exciting stuff.
Thank you. Next, we move on to community and staff comments. First one we have is Alex. We have 3 minutes, please.
Thank you for attending to come up and address something completely different, so there's nothing prepared, but first, thank you all for hearing us last time we were here at the work session, taking your time to listen to mine and my son's concerns, and they were addressed immediately and remediated, so thank you all very much for that. Today I come to address some bullying issues at school. Some of the information we got this evening, we got some reports back from a survey that was done, and it was quite concerning, the pie charts that were provided and not the students don't feel safe, the amount of students that don't feel safe. And while I was discussing this matter with the principal at LMS, my daughter's come running the door off the bus, and a 5th grader had punched a kindergartner in the face on the bus for no reason. This is a repetitive issue in all of the schools in Orting. It's happened, there's fights constantly on the bus, there's bullying, and I think mental health plays a big part of this. What services are we providing to these students that need the help, and how are we reaching these students and families to know there's resources available for them? Because I can't find it anymore on the website. I looked personally because my own daughter dealt with quite a bit of bullying at LPS. That was resolved, moved forward. But she was one of those students that came on and she said, Mom, I don't have a purpose here, I don't want to be here anymore. And I had to take her and go through some immense counseling because she was talking about suicide. She was 8 years old. And I see this every day in school with the kids here. Some of the information about tonight was pretty alarming. So I just want to bring that to the board's attention and make sure that you guys are aware of what is happening in the schools. But bullying is a real issue. There's no reason a fifth grade boy this big is punching a little kindergartner in the face. None. Thankfully, neither both parents are able to get that addressed, but the bus driver didn't know what to do. There's not enough staff in the schools to be addressing some of these issues. I'm very grateful to hear what's happening at KTR right now. That's great for my girls go to school. So I'm super happy to hear about all the additional staff. But what does that look like for every other school in our district? What are we going to do to provide more resources to our teachers and support our teachers that we do have in the schools to monitor this? Because it's a serious issue. I was hoping to allot the rest of my time to my son because he is a student in the school and he sees this every day. He hasn't so much been a victim of that, but he sees it all the time, and he's going to speak next to some of the stuff that he's seen and some of the specific information in these charts. I just hope that you guys hear that. There is a big concern. Bullying is a serious issue right now. So I do hope that if there are resources that can be available to parents on the website for parents that don't know, you can file a HIB report. It's a harassment, intimidation, bullying report. It should be available through the website. It's through OPSI or OPSI, I think is what it is. And that goes as a permanent record in the student's file that's doing the bullying. So if you don't know that, go onto the website, file the HIB report. It holds everybody accountable. They have to respond to this. So if you have an issue with students, go online, get the HIB report, file it. I'm going to let the rest of my time, I can't, but Skylar, go ahead. Do you want to? Here.
My name is Skylar Christian, and I'm a student at Orting Middle School. I have seen not a lot of bullying, but I have seen a few occurrences, and I've heard a few occurrences of bullying. I found some information tonight that I shouldn't have been able to see. Like my mom said, she was really alarmed with this. And so I did a little bit of some math with these pie charts. So one of the pie charts said, I feel like I'm in charge of this school. So that was the title of the pie chart. We got 478 responses from this. 30.8% was all of them. So out of the 478, 143 students said all the time they feel like they're part of the school. 172 said most of the time. 22.6% of 105 students said some of the time. 47 students said none of the time. And 47 students is too much. And even one would be too much. We want everyone to feel like they belong here. And the next one it says, I sometimes stay home because I don't feel safe at school. 396 is none of the time. 52% said most of the time. I wasn't able to calculate either most of the time and all of the time because they're too small different percentages on there. But there is still some of the all of the time, which there shouldn't be any. Because kids that stay home, they have to stay at school is scary. And yeah, one of the responses on this was they're terrified of their daily life here at school. They're scared to be here. They don't want to be at school. Everyone should be accepted here. No one should be afraid to go to school. No one should be afraid to come here. This is their safe zone. Whether it be they have a tough time at home, anywhere else. School is their safe haven. It's where they want to be, get away from everything. My teachers care about me. Was another one. 186 students said most of the time. 172 said all of my teachers care about me. 95 students said some of my teachers. And 19 students said none of my teachers. Every student should be cared for, whether they're black, white, race, gender, ethnicity, wherever they come from, everyone should be cared about. No one should be excluded, left out. And then the one that bothered me most was, I have an adult at the school that I can go to if something is bothering me. Out of 478 responses, 344 said yes. That leaves 129 students left that said no. That is, to me, that's unbelievable.
evening. I'm happy to be here. I'm happy that people of Orting elected me to this position. And I've got a lot of unique perspectives and things that I'm going to be bringing to the table, and I'm very excited to be working with you guys. I'm here as a parent, I think for probably the last time, so I'll be up there with you guys. And I just wanted to go over kind of what I found. So I put a question out there, and the reason I put the question out there is because there's a big disconnect between what the people of this town feel is happening versus what is probably happening. And I talk to people all the time. I'm in town every single day. I talk to hundreds of parents, students, and teachers, and people message me. And so for the last year, I've been listening to them, and then I've been seeing and listening to what's going on here. And that is why that's why I put this out here. So at the board retreat, when I asked, why don't we do more polling? Why don't we do more asking what people of the town want? And the answer I got, afraid that if they saw the results, they'd be worried that the next thing would be action, that there would be, automatic action would be happening because of that, So that kind of bothered me. This is why I put this out there. So it was one question for 12 hours on a public blotter, and if you guys take a look at it, these are the issues that the people, the parents are concerned about the most. Unconstitutional mandates, 31%, short lunch, 18%, bullying, 14%, overcrowding, 10%, and vaccine clinics being in schools, 6%. So this is going to be great. But I wanted to get people out here because it was pathetic to see just me and Caroline, the only two parents out here talking, when on Facebook everybody's complaining and bitching, but they're not showing up. So I'm going to hand it back to the parents the same. They need to show up if they want things to take place and have change. And that's why I'm here. So
Yes.
There's not a lot we can do about certain things, but at least the people need to know that we're listening to them. So when we say we can't do anything about the unconstitutional mandates, what's Eatonville doing? And if they get somewhere, and if they get funding still, or they find an insurance company to fund them, I sure hope we follow suit, because that is what the people want. Okay? I'm here for the parents, and I'm here for the students. That's it. I will be a team member. I will treat you all with respect, and I know we're going to get somewhere. I'm very excited. I've heard a lot of good things about you, Ed, and all of you guys, and I know you all are very passionate. People have a high level of trust for Joanna. People have a high level of trust for me. When I said on Facebook today, it's a new era, not in a bad way. I'm not here to be crazy. I'm here to bring a new era of full transparency, swift action, and power back to the parents. So I want you guys to take a look at this. We need to focus on these 5 things. And if we don't focus on this and move to the next month with taking action, we are failing the people. So that is my concern, is that when I see a list of the things that the district is working on, if it doesn't match this, we're failing the people. Some of this is low-hanging fruit. Short lunch, 15 minutes? Whoa, that's easy. Let's give that to the people. Let's give the kids a little bit longer lunch break. That's easy. Overcrowding? Not much we can do about that without a new school, but I can tell you that bullying is probably happening because of overcrowding. And there's studies that can talk about that in prisons and overpopulation and things like that. You guys know my background, you know I work with the youth. I'm here to unite a whole bunch of people that do not have trust and to show them. And if I dive in and I don't see critical race theory happening, and I don't see these things that people are worried about, then I'll turn right around and I'll say, hey, it's not true, it's not happening. But the swift transparency of that has to take place. It can't take 6 meetings. It can't take 6 months. People don't like the fact that they can come here and they only speak for 3 minutes and they can't have dialogue. I feel like that needs to change too. How about a day where we have dialogue where the people can ask questions and get responses in real time? I'm a businessman. I'm not a politician. So that's where I'm coming from. And I really hope that you guys understand I'm not angry. I'm here because the people wanted me here. And I think it's going to be fun, and it's going to be a journey, because these are the things that I feel like we need to focus on the most, and I just haven't seen it. We're gonna check it out. And the other thing I mentioned about money, I just want to say something.
Quick, very quick time.
I don't understand why I'm being trained in Bellevue I don't think we should be staying at the Hyatt. I don't think we should be spending money on fancy dinners at Maggiano's or whatever. Okay, so I handle money and finances. I'm a professional at that, and I'm telling you right now, it doesn't make any sense. We should be meeting in a building with paid-for tables and probably have potluck. Why are we traveling to Bellevue? Whose idea was that? How much does that cost? I know a child that's sleeping in a tent right now. I know children who don't have books. I know a special needs kid who doesn't have equipment. I would gladly sacrifice my fancy-ass dinner to support more things that are way more important for these people. So that is what I'm talking about the money part. So I'm going to be looking at that, and that's the transparency these people are going to see because it's their children and it's their money. Okay. Thank you.
Thanks for getting this set up there, Ms. Lonnie.
You're very welcome.
I'd love to. Excited to show a video coming up here too, featuring our own TIO students.
Yes.
Thank you. So just highlights of the last month here, sharing a few recaps. We did have National Take Back Day. That was a partnership with OSTOP, which is newly reincarnated, reformed. That's a public partnership to help focus on drug alcohol prevention locally, both the students and the community. So we did have an outreach day on the 23rd of October. We had 25 total contacts and able to take back 8 medications. We had a drop-off set up in that partnership where unused medications could be removed out of the home and deposited in a safe place, so that was cool. We see a continued focus on safety and health, and all things are changing regularly. We did implement a test the state program this week. What that does with Tacoma Pierce County Health Department approval allows us for identified close contacts to get students back in the 3rd day. That saves 5 days of instructional time getting them back in. They do, as a commitment to that program, have to take a COVID test. We need parental consent to do that. And we have to test twice in that first week. Students in that program are not eligible for after-school sports and athletics. And that's part of our communication out there. We had about 200 or so responses early on. And we're seeing mostly, I think, real-time access to that. So for those that haven't signed up, Director Willis indicated several where they were identified later after that Monday, Tuesday timeframe signed up. There's quite a big number in the safety and health world of close contacts, over 605 at this point in the year. We continue to advocate as a school system with the remaining superintendents in Pierce County, with Tacoma Pierce County, and the governor's office for what we would say is more of a commonsensical approach to mandates. The schools, we feel, are disproportionately impacted by said mandates with lots of lost instructional time. Although Test to Stay is an important tool in getting kids back to school and keeping them here, we feel like there are additional measures that we're looking for our state leaders to employ so that we know, okay, what's going to happen and when, what are the measures you're going to use to make those decisions. Now, moving on to school bus safety warriors. As you know, one of our primary focuses is improving student voice, and a lot of things that we talked about of how we're doing that. This is a cool video that Mr. Rashad has created. Do you have access to press play on that? Thanks for just hitting me play on that. I'd love to just play this and see if our sound is teed up so you can hear what that looks like. It's just a cool collaboration with our elementary students to help remind others about safe behavior on our school buses. I hope it's good. The suspense is just killing me.
I can see it here.
That's just a warm-up.
Yeah.
Teaser. The preview. brief intermission.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Right, close it.
Someone does want
Meet the powerful in an Orting School District bus. They are the School Bus Safety Warriors.
We are dedicating to school bus safety. Here are some tips to ensure a safe and smooth ride to school and home. Tip 1. Bottom to bottom, back to back, feet to floor with hands in lap. Sitting down with your feet and hands out of the walking aisle is the safest way to ride. Also, your seat cushions protect riders in case of an emergency, such as a sudden stop or if the driver drives over a speed bump. Tip 2. Riders should use their quiet voices in the bus ride. Talking quietly makes the bus driver concentrate on the ride. Tip 3. Try not to eat or drink on the bus. It keeps the bus clean from people taking off their masks. Tip 4. Riders should never cross behind the bus. Walking behind the bus doesn't give riders a clear vision on their blind side. By walking in front of the bus, riders can see possible oncoming traffic ahead of them. Tip 5. The riders should wait for the bus driver's signal to cross the street. To cross the road, they should stay away from traffic until the bus driver signals through traffic.
Follow these tips and one day you can become a bus safety warrior too.
Very cool. Rashad is in our schools every week, meeting with leaders, he's out meeting with students, trying to get those stories out and lifted.
Carl's Car Wash! I did not, I didn't make that.
Thank you. Just as we're kind of moving forward, we know whether we're talking, Lord Almighty. We're getting there. So a couple things as we kind of get back on the train here. Communication as your goal is very important, and you heard from some of our public community today about the importance of that. As we're tackling whether it's safety or bullying and meeting with high school, middle school students, kind of getting the pulse of what's going on, that pathway forward is through communication, collaboration, partnership. We have to paint a vision of what safety, what health, what positivity, empowerment look like. You'll hear some teaser about the strategic plan tonight. But that's just a sample of how we want to move forward with just accessing our students and voice. And it's just so powerful. So super proud of those kids. They did a great job. When we are talking about communication, getting the word out so our public is aware and informed, we had some questions come up last month about how we're communicating. So there's a little sample of what we do in terms of putting it on the website. We do have it on the school calendar. We post our agenda on those areas as well as board docs. We do the social media link as well, which will take people to the upcoming agenda. And there's a lot going to be talking about over the course of the next year as we chart our way forward as a school system and thinking about facilities. And one of your interests is around ongoing communication, and we'll make sure with Rashad's help to keep that communication going and alive, and obviously always welcoming feedback in that regard. One of our attempts to, this is a PDF. Okay, in your update, which we don't see up there, I wanted to highlight scratch-based cooking. So, in what you'll see, you don't see it either. All right, so pretend. Pretend you're staring at a plate of a 5th grade student up on the screen, and on that plate is homemade chicken fettuccine Alfredo, homemade Caesar salad with dressing added 10 minutes before serving time so the lettuce doesn't get all wilty and we don't ruin the croutons because that's the best part. Green beans, apples, carrots. So one of the pieces we just wanted to call attention to, yes, we're trying to accelerate our time of serving, so there's adequate time to sit. OMS has shifted from the 15-minute split back and forth to everybody in the same room now. The reason why we're trying to space people out was around social distancing and trying to minimize the close contacts. As you saw, we've close contacted 600 students since school started. We don't have a desire to contact more out of school. We try to keep them included. So we do try to keep that social distance and space as part of the health department's requirement. But that doesn't mean we want to let go of quality cooking as well. So we still have that effort around scratch-based cooking. And I'll make sure I send you that picture of Mario's plate. He was very happy to get a home-cooked, scratch-based meal last month. Homecoming, great celebration. We did postpone that. We wanted to make sure with the close contacts tied to student athletes that everybody was able to experience as best as we could a homecoming experience. When we met with student leaders, as our student board reps will talk to you about, hanging on to the traditions, the ability to be involved, be connected, huge primary driver of what's helping to lift spirits and help to get back to normal. So we did have the first assembly we had in over 18 months outside of the stadium. It was incredible. We did have a parade. We had our student activities. We had an activity on Friday night. So just some huge celebrations there with kind of what occurred. We have some celebrations also with sports. We have a state athlete at the table amongst us. We have football. Let's talk about that first. So they did qualify for state by beating Bremerton. They'll play this Saturday, 5 o'clock down at Ridgefield. And it's about 2 hours and 15 minutes. That is not a league competition. People will have to buy tickets ahead of time or at the gate. With cross country, we did have several athletes qualify for state competition, including Miss Grace. We're very excited about that. They had one of the wettest, windiest send-off to states I've ever seen. The drum line was out, the band was out. We did a nice little send-off, and they scurried onto the buses super quick because it was pretty nasty outside. Just more highlights of the homecoming, the parade, the assembly, what that looked like with class competition. And that's one thing we don't want to let go of. We want to keep those activities, athletics, sports, clubs. Those are pieces that really help to get student interest motivated and captivated. We've asked Director Slagle to report back to you updates with regard to partnerships with the city, further updates on fall sports. Volleyball's playing in a district tournament tonight. And they'll also talk about what does that public-city partnership look like for increased sports, athletic opportunities, other places for kids to get involved, including ideally, hopefully, a Special Olympics program that we can bring in with some included basketball this late winter, early spring. The Orting Monthly Bugle, in efforts to improve communication, we've begun a newsletter. So in Rashad's work, he has been surveying parents and students and trying to find out topics you'd like to know more about. How do we connect with you? What are the right ways to access that information? So we've been putting out newsletters to staff and our families and community as well. And you'll see different stories from the student I, student lens. We want to definitely capitalize on that voice, shout out, celebrate the good message, as well as ways to get questions answered. So we do have a link in this case of how to get information from a cabinet member if there's something you want to know more about. That'll just remain an ongoing effort, and we'll just keep looking for strategies to communicate aligned to your goal around effective community engagement and communication. We did have a power outage, as you recall. When we make a decision to close across the system, in this case, really the central kitchen closure was the primary driver. We had no power at Orting Middle, which also is our central kitchen, and we're not at the point now where we have generator backup. So when we have no ability to construct food for all of our students, that really puts us in an unsafe scenario. So we may close based on power outage or inability to serve food. We did have power out at PTR Mega, so that does mean the February 8th date, which was a no school day, is now a school day. We did put an inclement weather out to families just to give them some information this week about what are the filters that we use when we close and what are the ways to stay connected. Even when we make that closure, inevitably something misses in communication, so my principals will go out and put sandwich boards in front of schools and make sure that students and families know that maybe they didn't get the message, maybe they were without power, that school is closed that day as well. So we're tuning our internal communication and make sure, just in case if my power went out and I slept in or something like that, we're creating some redundancy so that we have cabinet level backup in that regard, working on our team. So we did put out that word this week and trying to make sure that we're out in front of any kind of storms for this winter, and hopefully, knock on wood, there won't be too many. That concludes my report to you. I'll do a little introduction. So what we have for you tonight is our partners with McGranahan. They're going to share a high-level overview of our Citizens Facility Advisory Committee. As you are aware, we're expecting a final report within the next month that summarizes the feedback from the group that, for your consideration, will help you decide and filter what projects do you desire to move forward with and what's your anticipated timeframe. So this is a high-level overview of that summary of the CPAC process that we started late June and wrapped up at the end of October. So with us, we have Ben and Michael, and they'll share their slides with you to help provide that overview.
Ed, could you remind how many people, community members participated in that review?
Sure, the question was how many community members participated. We had about 80 sign up and 45 to 50 consistently participated throughout that process.
Yeah, that consistent participation was a really great thing. Yeah, we've been at this for like 30 years working with all sorts of school districts, and I can't think of a time when we had the kinds of issues that we did to deal with in such a short time, small number of meetings. And just looking forward to sharing the results of this process with you tonight. So you can see that the meeting started in June, and then the process really ramped up in August, and then we just wrapped up at the end of October. And that's what we want to share with you tonight, is all the issues that the committee had to address, and a lot of number crunching on everyone's part too, to understand what's going on. We started the process with a survey of 10 different issues that have to do with schools and school facilities, all the way from what's your capacity, what kinds of diverse learning environments are there, how are we addressing growth, and the diverse learning opportunities to equity, and just how well can you maintain them. And so with this survey, we found out that the top 3 issues, 2 of them were sort of quantitative. There's a sense that growth is coming with the developments that are being planned in the areas surrounding the core of Orting School District, and that there's a number of schools that are in need of facility improvements. And then this qualitative one, I think, had to go with the diversity of ways we can serve students in our educational facilities. And so that's what they prioritized, and we planned our process around that. Getting into the facility conditions, Orting Primary is the one in the worst shape. It's the oldest school, and it's overcrowded already. Then you go to PPR, and it's one of the newer schools, but it's really overcrowded, and in terms of the number of portables and the number of students that get served inside the building. Orting Middle, newer one, and it's right at capacity now. And so in the coming years, if there's growth, you're going to see more portables on that site. And then the high school, multiple phases of development. It's sharing a site with an elementary school, district headquarters, and all the traffic that comes with all of that. And so there's challenges with that, and it's got more students than the permanent schools in-house. And you can't forget district headquarters, the transportation, the maintenance, and the food service. All of these really support the whole operation. So we wanted to get a little big picture of what's going on with development. I'm sure if you'd like with that.
Yeah, thank you, Michael. And I'm Ben, this is Michael. We met a lot of you at the CPAC meeting, but for those of you that we haven't had a chance to meet yet, hi. This is a outline of your current district, and as you know, there are a lot of developments that are going to be happening in the hills around you. We've got a Highland, we've got Uplands, we've got the Holly Daybreak and Uplands coming in, and all of those homes are going to start to bring students with them as they're developed. So we're looking at over 5,000 new homes in the next 10 years, which if you start to break that down by student, you get about 1 student every other home. So with that many homes coming in, you can expect over the next 10 years that the Orting School District is going to double in the population that it serves.
So what does doubling the population look like? That's another 2,500 students coming into all of these different levels. And so we did a lot of number crunching to get a picture of what that looks like. And I know there's a lot of small numbers on there, but you can see a line of small numbers that if there was no growth, the numbers that are right along. We're showing the permanent capacity and the portables, and all of that gray area above that are students coming from new homes. And so what to do about that is to build new capacity through newer or expanded schools. And we want to do this over the next 10 years. And so you keep eating a bite out of that growth and put it into permanent capacity as you can build new schools. And the same at the middle school, the growth is less steep, but at some point, we're going to have to find new middle school capacity in the next 10 years. And the same at the high school. So the committee looked at ways that we can take bites out of this with sequential developments on the high school campus or somewhere else. And so these are the observations that we talked about. You're doubling it. You've got a high proportion of students in portables already. Bad conditions are already primary, overcrowded. We can do something at the middle school and ETR with some renovation and additions there. High school, we need a comprehensive look at that. New sites are likely to make this happen, and that we may put some schools in developments in the future, and that we need to be mindful of all those facilities that support them. And so we asked the committee to take a look at some examples of different projects that you could implement to address the situation we see for the next 10 years. And they prioritized those. We gave them dots to put on a sticky board. And the one that came up the first was Orting primary. Like replace and expand that, build back bigger in that case. And then the second priority was the high school and getting the new capacity there and replacing portables. And then the third priority was a new student elementary school. And this was halfway through our process. We're getting the initial findings. So after that, then we looked at bond financing in the community and finding that assessed valuations have been increasing in the community. And as you add more homes in the district, that assessed valuation can expand even more. And it's that the assessed value of the total properties in the district that you can then go to the community and ask them to issue bonds against. 5% of the total assessed valuation is the number. And we asked the bond consultant that the superintendent invited to come in, and he explained to us, if you wanted to keep a certain tax rate that's similar to what you've been experiencing, going forward, that we could look at an initial package of 100 million over 20 years, and then another subsequent authorization of 180 million over 20 years. So for 280, and the first two, we're thinking of a 3-phase master plan. Okay? So how would you take that money and these needs and plan it out? And we came up with what we called the game. It was a really serious exercise, but we got a lot of good input on how to solve the problem. Ben's going to explain pretty quickly what that process was.
Yeah, thanks. We were trying to figure out how we could get people to engage with these numbers and with the projected enrollment growth and be able to understand exactly how they interrelate between the enrollment and the new schools and the bonding capability. And so we came up with this idea of creating a bond game where you had different pieces that represented a variety of options that the school district has to increase your capacity to serve students. And each one of those options has a cost associated with it. And as you move into the future, that cost increases due to escalation and inflation and other various issues that come up with construction. And so we asked people to take a look at how much they could fit in each of these possible 3 bond issuances, and how close could we get to those numbers that the bond consultant brought into us, the $100 million, $180 million, and then some future number that we are unclear about because it's too far away to tell. And so this was just sort of a quick run through on how to play it that we went with the CFAC. A lot of the same information that I just went over with you. And we came up at the end with a number that people can put in their initial bond funding. Like this representation of the game came up with $117.4 million for the first bond issuance. And then we'll kind of skip through this. You see that there was the game pieces, they have the costs on them that we discussed, and that's totaled up at the bottom. So we took this game out and the game pieces, and we sat down with, I think we had 8 different tables going through this, and they were able to spend a good chunk of an hour with the bond, with the board game, and we took a little break about 15 minutes in, asked people if they had any questions, if they needed any clarification. People were really doing a lot of engagement with these boards as they went through. Michael and myself and Ed and a few other people were wandering around to answer questions. And then at the end, we had each group present back and offer up their findings. The number one finding was it's a very difficult situation that we're in. It's going to be really hard to bring the capacity online in the time that we need with the money that we have. But it is not an impossible situation. It's a solvable issue that we're in, and I think with clarity and conversation and transparency, we can do a lot of really good things moving forward. And I think I'm going to skip down to the end of my section, and Michael is going to talk about the compilation of what we found.
So it was interesting to look through all those different scenarios that people put together and find some commonalities. And in the 22 package at the high school level, the idea of building, say, a new gym on the south, the corner where the wrestling room is now, in its place, build a new gymnasium, and the existing main gym to become an auxiliary gym, and then we build some CTE space. We heard a lot about how we want more CTE programs for students and those kinds of experiences, and that expanding the high school further in future years would be another thing that they would look at. So doing some work at the middle school level would happen in later years, and then replacing OPS on a new site was the favorite approach among most of the tables that work on the problem. And then get as soon as you can into the new school and the developments as the growth, as the numbers are starting to show up. So also get some new property, demo OPS at the right time, and then start to work on admin and transportation and the maintenance facilities as well. And so, interestingly, these came up with options that were within 20% was the guideline we gave them, and they were pretty close to that 20% factor over what the bond consultant came in with as an initial look at things. So, as Ben said, we feel like there's a plan that we could start to study further and deepen and move forward. And so the compiled look of what all the groups did, we put this together and there's the picture. And so we look forward to working with the board in the coming weeks and months to flesh this out and work with the community and get a greater understanding of where we are and what we can do. And so this is a quick summary of what we've done over the last 5 months. Any questions?
I just like to remind people that if you go to board docs, and all this information is there, we gave a lot of information, so on the facilities master plan, all the information that you shared is there. And thank you. It's been great. There was so much participation. It was great, and all the surveys and all the questions, and it's been a great experience. Thank you.
I'll just second that. I thank you both for the time that you put into this and kind of started this grassroots effort when it was kind of a buzz of ideas. We know we need a long-term plan for our district. Some of us in our roles haven't had the opportunity to really dive into what that might look like, and you made it very clear in your approach and the way that you engage people and got people to talk about and guiding us in that process. So I just thank you. I've heard it more than once, but that was a lot of work. It was a lot of work. It was well done.
Oh, and I wanted to say, because you've said this so many times, thank you to our maintenance department for taking such good care and being such good stewards of what we have. We heard that over and over.
We did, yeah. There's a lot of people studying, yeah. It's a heavy lift with where the district is right now. But a lot of good things happening in these schools right now too. And still work to be done. Yeah.
Oh.
Do people have questions of him? Okay. People have a question of him? You will not right now, but thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Okay.
report is the financial report by,
It's prepared by.
I know, it's the last time.
Any questions? Thank you. Come on. All right, Ed, you go.
Thank you.
While we get up and running up there, just to recap, so when you hired me as a board of directors, you asked me to really focus on 3 main objectives. One is to improve the overall teaching and learning outcomes of the system. One is to prepare the system for growth in facilities. And the other is to improve communication. So what I really hope to do is to share a summary of the feedback that we learned from stakeholders and what our initial thinking is about what a strategic plan might look like to improve teaching and learning in the system. If you recall, we sent a mailer out to all of the families residing within the Orting School District this summer, asking for feedback with regard to where they like to see the district grow in terms of vision, what our strengths are, where do they think we should improve, any other areas they'd like us to consider and know about. And that was about 140 responses. We did another push out during the school year after Rashad came on board as PIO to further gather that feedback. And then we met with students. We met with about 6 classrooms, about 140, 150 students, middle school, high school, asking similar type of questions about strengths and areas to improve and things of that nature. We also did some staff interviews as well. And so we summarized that feedback for you. And really around the vision, one of the pieces that really stood out most was a desire to improve academics, but with a personalized lens. The feedback pointed to we really want to see a system that recognizes the individual strengths of my student, and that's kind of what we wanted to chart. So what I included for you is just a high-level overview of what some of the feedback was. The previous slide was actual feedback cut and pasted from students and staff. So you can see the academic surface is a strong area. Beyond that, though, community. People really spoke to strongly a desire to keep that community feel and the vibe, which to us speaks to the relationship and personalization. Our students really talked about having an inclusive environment. You heard Skylar talk about that today. Issues related to harassment, intimidation, and bullying. The desire of the vision was a place where everybody feels valued, included, and respected, with a strong support for student success. So really around the vision aspect, we got a lot of good feedback in that area. Around strengths, many comments highlighting what they felt to be the strengths of the Orting school system as well. And so we summarized the strengths area for you in your board report. And then we had to work to try to synthesize that and put a draft together of what would mission, vision, values, goals look like as a starting point. And I would call it a starting point. This, what I'm about to share, is our summary with some cabinet tune about what we heard from students and community. One of the pieces in a strategic plan that really helps to anchor your work is a theory of action. And whether we have an interest in improving learning outcomes or improving our climate and culture sense of belonging, you have to get very clear about what you stand for and what you're going to measure, so you know what the priorities and values are and how you're going to recognize whether you're making the intended impact. So the theory of action was our attempt to kind of take some of those words together and put that into some sort of semblance of, if we focus on these things, then we will see some different outcomes for our students. So this is our stab at that. If we are relentless in our pursuit of creating schools where all students feel valued, cared for, and a deep sense of belonging, know their voice, ideas, and interests are utilized and valued, develop a belief that they can make a difference, experience high levels of support, and having barriers removed to meet high expectations, we will ensure the Orting School District is an equitable organization where every student feels connected, inspired, and empowered for present and future success. So you won't really see a focus on that we're about test scores. You'll see a focus on building and empowering students. And we feel like those 4 pillars will really be the vehicle to not only ensure success on academic outcomes, but will help to drive their success, their goals, their dreams. So really what we would call is those 4 bullets are kind of pillars around how to develop student agency. And as we've met with some of our high school students most recently, many of those ideas really seem to resonate with them. And again, we're trying to tease out what are those right things to focus on and pay attention to that capture who we are and who we aspire to be. The mission statement, when we think about a mission statement, clarifies why. Why do we exist? Those are generally kind of pretty short in a way that you can remember. And so building on those 3 words from theory of action, we kind of landed on this as just a stab at a start. You saw the language around strengths around community, and we really wanted to build on that from the very first important topic about mission. So they were coming up with this idea that working in partnership with parents, guardians, and our community, the Orting School District will engage and develop the unique interests and talents of each of our learners as they apply their learning in creative and inventive ways. Through high expectations and relevant opportunities to learn and grow in a caring, supportive environment, we will ensure each of our children feels connected, inspired, and empowered to create a better present and future. If those words tend to resonate with your feedback, and as we go through additional feedback loops, then what we might do, instead of college careers in life, we might replace those words with those 3 words. And so really we're trying to get at that idea of what does it look like and sound like from what we're trying to produce through a student perspective. A vision statement really speaks to what must we become in order to achieve that. So I put a draft of what a vision statement would look like, and there you see relating with that value around students. Students are the heart of our organization. We will develop and support their individual strengths, interests, and talents through engaging in relevant learning opportunities. We commit to developing personal relationships and build a safe, inclusive, and equitable environment where every student succeeds feeling a sense of value and belonging. Through high academic expectations and multi-tiered systems of support, we will develop resiliency and empower learners through strength-based instruction. So there you see some themes coming back to the community feedback. So we don't want to lose that idea of community. We don't want to lose that sense of belonging and connectedness. We know that's a value and a strength that we need to anchor now, but we don't want to lose that as we grow as well. That's why people might choose to come to our system versus neighboring systems. So what we heard from our high school students is really a desire to shift from what we would call more of a teacher-centered, where they're just passing recipients of knowledge, to where they're more productively engaged in things that align to their interest. So that's our intent in a vision statement of what that might look like and sound like. And again, it's just a draft form. Values underpin how will we achieve that? What are the type of behaviors that we need to focus on to achieve that purpose? So just in our values, we kind of really tried to tease out some of what our community was looking for, as well as our students and staff. And high expectations, focusing on growth and achievement, definitely resonated. Embracing a culture of creativity, exploration, and innovation to sustain our growth and improvement. We led with the innovator's mindset this fall. We really knew that would be something that we wanted to underpin, so we don't want to lose those ideas. And we saw those resonated around those ideas of personalization. We commit to building inclusive and equitable schools and removing barriers to learning. I think we need to help our community define what we mean by equitable, because I don't think we mean what other people might mean. We don't mean critical race theory. We mean that every child is treated as an individual and supported through what they need, whether it's social, emotional support, behavioral support, academic support. Rick mentioned kind of some of the work at the Haven. Those community partnerships in our school, it's that idea of working together to remove barriers so that every student can and will be successful. And our job is to really know what that is and what those needs are, and then support and deliver that. We understand and cultivate the unique needs and interests of learners through relationship and personalization. That really resonated as a strong strength, both through our student feedback and our community feedback. And then we believe ongoing communication, collaboration, and community engagement are essential. That's been a value of yours from the start and something that we would intend to maintain. And so if those values are what drive us, then we would want to know, how are we going to measure that? How are we going to know if we're successful? If, for instance, on the communication, are people responding that we are timely? Rashad tracks metrics, so as the information we're pushing out being received, things of that nature. And then so outcomes. So if those really are the right things, what are really going to focus on with new measures? And so when we think about the outcomes for our system, I just took a stab at 4 broad goals that I feel like if we measure the pillars around agency, this might be what we publicly report to you on. Goal 1 would be around that successful academic foundation. Every student meeting rigorous academic outcomes. So things we might focus on are our state test scores in that area. Foundational skills and awareness. Every student develops agency and takes ownership of their learning. So when we really think about belonging, for instance, Skylar referenced belonging, to come back to that. You heard a little bit of a reference from OMS's attempts to know where they sit, and that's what measures might look like in that regard. So if really that's a value that we intend to measure, then we need a system to be able to collect the data and know where we're at. We might look at attendance data. That might tell us who's here and who's not, but it won't really tell us why. And so it's not until you unpack that at a deeper level that we'll start to get more information that we can report to you. And that's hence the power of the survey that they're trying to do. Goal number 3, whole child, that idea that every student is actively engaged in school and the broader community. We heard loud and clear from middle school and high school students that there is a lot of opportunities to get involved, but some are asking for more, and they rattled off probably another 6 or 8 clubs, additional sports. Our parents in the surveys really referenced this idea of increased activities in the K-5 grade band. So what we want to do is, if that's a value that you hold and an idea you want to go with, is how are we making sure that people are involved? We might look at discipline data, attendance data, we might look at participation data, but those are just different indicators whether students really do feel belong and that they're connected to our school community and the broader community. And then the 4th goal is around successful transitions through graduation. And we're not just saying to graduation because we think there's key benchmarks we need to measure along the way. That could be around kindergarten readiness, so focusing on early learning and transitional decay. Around literacy in K-5, making sure that they leave with the necessary foundation to be successful in middle school. And not only the academic foundation, but that transition to help them transition and move from 5th grade to 6th grade. Similar, 8th grade to 9th grade. In middle school, that might look like focusing on mathematics outcomes and strong intervention to make sure all of our students are algebra ready. In the high school, that would look like a successful 9th and 10th grade year where we're tracking on track. We know a lot of students fell behind last year. So it'll just give you an idea, if that's the goal we stick through, then we would want to build the measures that you would want to see reported to, and that would begin to form our strategic plan. So just tying it all together, that is really our ideas of how we initially are thinking about the community and the student and staff feedback in a way that might tell the story of who we are and who we aspire to be. And I love your feedback on that. Our idea is that this isn't done. We would want to get additional feedback with stakeholders. We'd want to talk and go back to meet with students and get their ideas because they haven't seen this yet. Go back to our staff and put things out with the community. Rashad is working on ways to take, this isn't what I would want to share publicly. I would want some pretty poster with graphics and pictures of kids and things like that. He's got ideas of what that looks like too. So he's going to take a stab at professionalizing it, making it look public ready with your feedback. And then what we would want to do after we've pressure tested those different stakeholder groups is bring it back to you for a final recommendation to see if we're heading down the right track. So that's my update to you of what we've seen so far with the data, and happy to take any feedback you may have.
Just reminding the public once again, this is in the file attachments on Word docs because there was a lot of information there, and so if you want to go back and read it over, it's there. And I wanted to thank all the students in the community that participated in the surveys. Thank you. And I know that you have some information about how, some ideas about helping the transition, because you told us that at another time. So that, and your input is valuable.
These two were very informative.
Yes.
I appreciate you gave up your lunch to stay and help us further refine those ideas. That was awesome.
You gave up your what?
I would just say that I think this is, you were just asking me, you thought you were on the right track, and I think it's obviously on the right track. I really appreciate how you've taken, although we gave you 3 main categories, that does not in any way, shape, or form represent all the things that you and the rest of the school district does for students on a daily basis. And you've incorporated those 3 main ideas that we know need some immediate attention and been able to start putting it to life. And you can see the care, you can see the concern, some of the things talking about the kids and having the student voice and the whole child that they're actively engaging in, that they are connected. It just brings a little heartbeat to me knowing what our student said a little bit earlier, some of the concerns of students, and we know that that's not an isolated event, it's all over the place, not just in Orting, but to this strategic plan and where you're going, I'm on board. So I like it a lot.
Thank you.
Any questions? We'll move back on to Chris.
for those of you who read the report, around our non-resident students. This year, which hasn't been really different than the previous years, we had 370 students transfer out of this system, and then we had 68 coming in. The major reasons for leaving, online programs. And so that was the number one reason, and that's student parent work, and then also closer to daycare. And so in regards to the 68 who came into the district, most of those students, 26 of the students are from employees. So we got to the point where we actually had to close our doors at the high school because of overcrowding, like that was mentioned earlier. And we'll continue to take a look at the elementary and middle school as the year goes on. But for the most part, we won't see very many waivers coming in at this point. Most of those come in the summer and in September. And so right now, we also have 178 homeschool students in the district. Is there any questions? Okay.
Not for me.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks, sir.
This is the annual report that we provide to show that the data management system that we use for the system, for the district is unchanged. We're using the same system we've used previous years. As you can see, the cost differential between past years and this one is only dictated by student enrollment. They have not raised the rate per FTE over the last 2 years. So it's just a report of what that system we're using and what it costs. Any questions?
Thanks.
All right, thank you.
All right, the next one is D, consent agenda 1 through 4. Any questions? Entertain a motion?
I motion to approve items 1 through 4 on the consent agenda.
First and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Next item on the list of action items. First on resolution 1.2021-2022. Any questions? Okay, motion.
I move to approve resolution number 1.2021-2022, replacement educational programs and operations levy as presented.
Seconded.
First and second, all in favor?
Director Rowland, we're going to do a roll call vote on this. Is
Oh,
that
roll
okay?
call vote. All right. Roll call vote.
So if you agree to say approved, please. So Director Holland,
Aye.
Director Kinsler,
Approved.
Director Madigan, approved. Thank you.
Next resolution. Resolution 2021-2022.
I move to approve resolution number 2021-2022. Was the annual conference as presented.
I will second.
First and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Third one, ICAP program. Any questions, Mrs. Speedway? No, this is,
Happy to answer any questions if you've got them.
This is a motion.
I move to approve the district charter people plan for 2021-22 for board policy 2190 and will approve the information and data in OSPI's form package 217 for the 2021-22 highly capable program.
First and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Next. Condition certification request. Any questions, Ms. Day? No questions?
I will move to approve the request for the district to obtain the appropriate conditional certificate for Kevin Wilbur, Gina Dunn, Sandra Chamberlain, and and Chanel Mayfield to serve in their respective fields during the 2021-22 school year.
I second it.
First and second, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Next one is board comments. Student report. That's why we're there.
All right. If you don't mind, I got a little note I'd like to pull up. So, I just wanted to talk about a couple of the things since we just finished our homecoming week and all that good stuff. So I wanted to bring up a couple of the events that we went through. So one of them is that the parade, I thought it was really awesome to see the community come together and just the never-ending support. I love it. It makes my heart so happy. We were able to acknowledge a bunch of different clubs, sports, and extracurricular activities in our school, and I thought that was awesome. I also want to bring attention to our Olympics event that we had. It was so much fun. It's really cool to be able to see like all the students be able to, show their school spirit in different places. And I thought it was really cool to also be able to see the teachers bonding with the students in a very different way than you usually see. I really enjoyed events like that. I was at the homecoming football game. It was awesome. Orting won. It was extra packed with school spirit, and we got to honor our homecoming royalty. And yeah, it was a really good game, and I'm sure a lot of you guys know how the football games go in our town, and it's a never-ending spirit, guys. It's really awesome. Homecoming itself was definitely different this year. There was even a bouncy house at our homecoming, so definitely a different one for me. They provided professional photos, a photo booth. They provided a bunch of cool stuff for us to do. Even though we weren't able to have a dance, they still provided us food. They provided us with a bunch of activities, and they really did their best. And big kudos to the leadership classroom and to Miss Almond for putting that together. I also want to bring up, since it's November and we have Veterans Day tomorrow, leadership class is working on hanging up veteran stars, and we're going to find a way. That's our way to honor people's families members who have served, and we're going to try and find another way to incorporate that. Our winter wishes forms have been sent out. They're due the 11th, so super cool, super exciting. Definitely excited for that one. The haunted house that leadership and FFA through huge success. In 2 hours, they had over 250 people come, and it was a blowout. It was really cool to be able. That's just a really cool event. We also did our trunk or treat for National Honor Society, and that was a huge success. I really enjoyed being able to see all the kids in their cute little costumes and to see my peers all dressed up. The seniors had their first Jostens meeting, and we got to go over our graduation year into our high school and beyond plan, so that's really exciting. And my last thing is we have at our high school, the Empowerment and Equality Club, which today was our first meeting, and we talked about a lot of things that we're going to do, and such things as like the period poverty fundraiser, so we're going to try to fund to be able to supply with donations and hygiene utensils and other things like that to be able to help people. And another club we have is Culture Club that happens on Mondays, and it's really cool. I myself have not gone, but from what I've heard, you get to see a bunch of different, cultures and get to learn about that stuff. So I think it's a really cool opportunity. And I'm really glad that our school has clubs where people can go to talk about, their own personal experiences and to be safe. So that's what I wanted to mention today. Bunch of exciting stuff. Thank you. All right, well, Haley covered a lot of it, and I appreciate that. And about all the clubs, I fully agree. I'm totally on board. I haven't been able to find the time to go to any of those clubs yet, but I'd really like to. Personally, I like to go see them. For the homecoming events, I love all of our parades, our normal traditions that we finally got to have again. I love being in the parade. I love seeing everybody come out in town. It's a really special thing for me, and I know that our community members like it a lot. For the homecoming event itself, it was interesting. It was good, interesting, but it was definitely different. The bouncy houses were fun and stuff like that. Yeah, I definitely say that we put a lot of effort into ASB and stuff like that. We all had a really big say in it. I'm glad we got to do something. It was nice to be able to just take that. see everybody all dressed up or not. It really depended. It was a mix, but it was a good mix. I know coming up here shortly, like soon in our school year at the high school, the counseling team and a couple of our leadership students were planning on introducing to the freshman class more of the Are You OK stuff that I mentioned in our last meeting. It's a mix between like their curriculum that they're coming into freshman classes and teaching and some of the newer Are You OK ideas. And I'm hoping that's going to be a success. I don't know who the guy's name came up from the middle school. Skylar. I remember Christian, but I can't remember his first name. I know from some other middle school students that that's been happening down there, so I'm hoping to eventually be able to, if this is a success in the high school, I'd like to be able to go down and help them support their own program down there eventually. That's more of an idea, but, because I know it can be hard down there too. It's really hard right now, everything with mental health and bullying and all that, so I want to be able to make it as much as we can here.
Yeah, can I ask you a question? Has the leadership team or the high school officials, have any of them reached out to talk to the student councils at like OPS, or I don't know, TGR has one? I mean, and some of those younger kids are trying to learn to be role models and.
Yeah. I don't think we've done it yet, but I think that would be great.
I know that there was mention at the National Honor Society meeting this morning that they wanted to do something with incorporating like our students be able to go to the schools and help out. And so I think that would be really awesome to, I guess, like you said, kind of get that camp kind of thing in there and be able to help the students understand how to be a leader.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Especially like, because I was in the like OMS leadership and PTR back a long time ago, but I think it'd be a good idea maybe to have some of the, like the us older kids go down there and like show them that you guys can keep doing it and it's still a lot of fun and it's really important.
And then we'll look at you like rocks.
Yeah. I know when I walk past like the breezeway at the high school and there's like the recess going on, they're so funny.
An understatement.
Yeah, I didn't get it till this year. I'm older, but.
Thank you. Next will be board comments. I would like to thank all the people I work with closing this chapter of my life on the board. I'm moving up to the ESD Board of Directors. You will have a friend on the ESD board. We'll make sure Orting is my #1 priority while I'm on that board. So I'm looking forward to the difference. I have 9 members. So I'm looking forward to joining that board in January. So, and Orting is in my district. So you got a friend in the district. So if you need to go to ESD, you need something, you have my number, give me a call.
And I wanted to thank Stanley for helping us learn how to be a board, run a board meeting, not make any mistakes that we could be dinged for. I found out at the beginning. So it's been great to work with somebody when I was new, to work with somebody who has experience not only in working with the community, but how to run a board and do it officially and appropriately. So thank you very, very much for your service.
And I will comment on the things that I have so appreciated your tutelage and your leadership as I'm learning what it means to be a board member. And I say learning as in current because I'm not sure I'm ever going to stop learning what it means to sit up here and represent our community that way. And your experience and your teaching me and those phone calls when I was not sure that this was going to be something I could do correctly was not only well received but very needed. And I will miss having that calm sense of I know exactly what to do.
We've been some trials and tribulations, I know that you have, so I'm looking forward to, I'll keep my eye on you guys. Like I said, you guys friend up there, so if you ever need ESD, give me a call.
As we wrap up, just a few things to say. I know this is not just a passion of yours around public service, but it's personal. Your grandson's on our system. I got to see him in class and engaging, and you know this work means something because you know who you're fighting for. And so just that sense of giving back and supporting family and community has been a huge value, and we're sad to see you go, but happy to have you as a partner with the ESD. I know they're very excited to swear you in January. As we adjourn here, we do have a card and a gift. We know you like the good steak, so we pulled it up out of our resources there to get you a good steak out, dinner out with you and the missus, and we'll cut some cake here after we adjourn and just celebrate you for a little bit.
All right,
So thank you for your service.
thank you.
Yes.
All right, we're gonna join the meeting at 7:24 p.m. You guys have a great night.